real quick thought on chapter 44. Couple of things here. I think Joseph went too far at this point. I know at some point he went too far. I just don't know exactly when it was. But I really think this was the point where he went further than he needed to. He had the dinner with him. Everything was good. Then he kind of considers in his mind what he thinks would be a good little thing to get back at him. He overstepped his... I mean, none of this, as I can see, was really even commanded of the Lord. It was all brought about by the Lord. But I think this is really an example of where Joseph was doing things in his own power. You know, Joseph, I've come to realize in reading this a few times, that was influenced by Egypt and the ways of Egypt. I'll make more comments of that before we're finished with the book of Genesis. But right now, one of the thoughts and the reasons why I believe this is the case, he took the silver cup and he told him, here, is not this in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Now, God gave warning about divination. It's not a good thing. It's like, these seers, that we have nowadays. What do they call them? Psychic readers, and those kind of psychic people. This stuff is not of God. And that was all from Egypt. Divining. A divining rod? It's like how you find water. You use an old hickory or a weeping willow stick. It divines. It tells you where the water is. Well, this is supposed to be like tells you what the future is going to be, But then he says, here, once again, it went beyond what he was allowed to of the Lord. He said, know you not? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? He's using some sort of an evil way that was not of God to lord over them. God had already put him in a position of lordship over these guys, as God promised, but it had nothing to do with this divination junk. Unfortunately, Joseph was taken in and suckered in by the ways of Egypt. And there's another example, which is towards the end of the book, that I'll point out when that time comes. So he allows these guys. But what had happened through this, anyway, was really cool, because remember I'd mentioned at some point, Reuben stood up for Joseph, stood in the way of the guys not wanting them to do anything bad to Joseph. Judah then stood in the gap and said, I will take responsibility. Judah is the one who is in the line of Christ, of course. The Lion of Judah, Christ is called. And Judah took responsibility and stands up and says, by the end of the chapter, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my Lord. An example of Christ and how he stood in our place for our sin when we deserve the judgment. Judah is a picture of Christ in this chapter.